What if the real origin story of Europe has been buried for over 12,000 years? Before Rome, before the Vikings, even before the first pyramids, there was a bloodline roaming the dark forests and icy plains of Europe. A lineage so old, it predates agriculture. One that survived glaciers, extinction events, and mass migrations. And yet, most people have never heard of it. This is the forgotten story of Haplogroup I2, one of the oldest and most mysterious paternal bloodlines in Europe. It's not just a genetic code, it's a living trace of prehistoric humans who called Europe home before anyone else. And today, we're finally beginning to understand who they were. Let's rewind way back. We're talking 30,000 to 40,000 years ago in the Paleolithic era, a time when Europe was mostly covered in glaciers. Early Homo sapiens, fresh out of Africa, were moving northward. Among them, one small branch settled in the Balkan region. These were the fathers of Haplogroup I, and from them, I2 was born. So while most lineages in Europe today, like R1a and R1b, trace their roots to the Pontic-Caspian steppe, Haplogroup I2 was already here, in the caves, in the cold, in the heart of Ice Age Europe. This makes Haplogroup I2 truly indigenous to Europe. Not brought in from Asia, not imported from the Middle East, they were here first, and they stayed. During the last glacial maximum, when Europe became almost uninhabitable, these groups retreated into warmer refuges, mainly the Balkans, parts of Iberia, and modern-day Ukraine. These were the final outposts of human survival in Europe, and it's from these strongholds that I2 would rise again. After the glaciers receded, the descendants of I2 expanded. They spread into Central and Eastern Europe, especially into what is now Serbia, Bosnia, Croatia, and Hungary. Later, they made their way into France, Germany, and even parts of the British Isles. But they weren't farmers. Not yet. These were hunter-gatherers, people who lived off the land, who tracked game through forests and fished in pristine rivers. They used flint tools, carved symbols into stone, and buried their dead with care. Some of the earliest European art, cave paintings, carvings, sacred burial sites, came from cultures where I2 was dominant. And then everything changed. Around 9,000 years ago, agriculture arrived from the Middle East, carried by migrants with a different genetic signature, Haplogroup G2A. These Neolithic farmers brought wheat, goats, pottery, and a whole new way of life. And for a time, they overtook the older hunter-gatherers. In fact, it seemed like the story of I2 would end there. Absorbed, outbred, forgotten. But it didn't, because about 5,000 years ago, another massive wave of migration came crashing in, this time from the Eurasian steppe. They were the Yamnaya, horse riders, warriors, and genetically, they carried haplogroup R1b and R1a. Their arrival reshaped the entire continent. But here's the twist. Instead of disappearing, Haplogroup I2 adapted. In certain regions, especially in the Balkans, I2 not only survived, it thrived. Some studies suggest that I2 integrated into tribal elites, even becoming chieftains and leaders in Bronze Age cultures like the Illyrians and Thracians. In fact, archaeological digs in Vucedol, a Copper Age site in modern Croatia, show evidence of a warrior priest elite with strong I2 signatures. So while the rest of Europe changed rapidly, I2 remained rooted in place, a living remnant of Europe's original people. And today, over 10 million men in Europe still carry this ancient Y-DNA signature. It's especially common in the Balkans, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, Serbia, and parts of Romania, where up to 40% of men descend from I2. But it also appears in lower frequencies across Italy, France, Germany, Ukraine, and even in the UK. This means that despite invasions, empires, and migrations, the blood of prehistoric Europe still runs strong. But here's the strange thing. You've probably never heard of them. Unlike the Celts or the Vikings, there are no I2 empires taught in school. No blockbuster movies, no ancient monuments bearing their names, just faint traces, in bones, in genomes, in traditions passed down by memory. So why did they disappear from history books? Well, part of it is political. Ancient European history has often focused on Romans, Greeks, Germanics, and later empires. The pre-agricultural tribal peoples were seen as uncivilized, primitive, even irrelevant. But you know, DNA is really rewriting that narrative. We now know that Haplogroup I2 is not just a prehistoric ghost. It's actually part of the foundation of European identity. These were the first men to build fires in alpine caves, the first to survive the Ice Age, and the first to raise children on European soil. They were Europe's original sons, and as genetic research continues, more light is being shed on their legacy. In fact, researchers now believe that I2 was instrumental in shaping some of the oldest megalithic structures in the Balkans, predating Stonehenge by centuries. Their traditions, tools, and maybe even their spiritual beliefs may still echo in local folklore, symbols, and regional customs, especially in rural areas untouched by modernity. So what does all this mean for us today? Well, it means that ancestry is more than just a number, it's a story. And Haplogroup I2 tells a powerful one, of resilience, adaptation, and deep connection to the land. It's a reminder that the people of Europe didn't all come from the steppe or the Middle East. Some were always here, and honestly they still are. You might be one of them. So the next time you walk through a European forest, when you see an ancient stone wall, a sacred spring, or a forgotten ruin, just remember this. You're walking in the footsteps of a bloodline that helped build Europe before Europe even had a name. The forgotten bloodline of Europe is no longer forgotten, it's being rediscovered, one gene at a time.